Did your relationship evolve with children?
You do things and see things, and you probably react to things so much differently than you did beforehand.
Lisa Ing Marinelli is a corporate lawyer, fashion influencer with over 200,000 followers on Instagram and a mom of 2 boys.
As corporate lawyers, there are really not that many mothers out there. The more senior you get, the less likely there are to be mothers.
You need to still have a happy marriage, functioning marriage. How do you find time for that?
I think my best tip is...
Is there a message you would like to send to working mothers?
Working mothers have a very tough job in every aspect of their life. We place a lot of expectations on ourselves to be something. I think just learning that we cannot be 100% in all aspects of our life 100% of the time.
Do you think you have it all figured out?
I mean, does anybody? Come on.
Welcome to Do Not Disturb, the inside story. I'm your host, Simona Devta. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here today.
The pleasure is mine to be sitting here talking to you.
Everyone was so excited to have you. People sent me questions to ask you.
Amazing.
So we will be going through all of them, hopefully.
Very exciting.
Today. I'm personally very, very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure.
Hopefully everybody already knows, but it's always nice to hear from you.
Yeah. So I am a lawyer, I guess, first and foremost. And secondly, I am, a content creator / fashion influencer, as it were. Actually, I guess first and foremost, I should be a mother and a wife, but that's my personal side. And yes, that's my professional side. So what I do is, I've always enjoyed the fashion side. I, however, did not go to school for that. I was never exposed to that sort of art world, editorial world, or anything of that nature. So I continued my path in my professional direction as a lawyer. And as a result, thankfully, social media came around and I was able to then start exploring this world. And whilst I don't have the same background as sort of other people who have always worked in fashion, I love the angle that I've come up with, or not come up with, but I love the angle that I give to the fashion world, which is one of which is more based on a practical, everyday element of being a professional working mother that needs to balance both sides, her creative side and also.
And I think that resonates so well, like with followers like me or my friends.
Yeah.
We love that about you.
Yeah.
I remember you did, I think it was a reel, you went to Paris Fashion Week.
Oh, yes.
Lawyer by day, fashionista by night.
I never would have anticipated that to have happened. It was a very pinch me type of moment where, that to me has always been reserved for people who are, live and breathe that industry, do all the fashion months twice a year or whatever it is. And never would I have ever thought that a lawyer who is still very much a working lawyer would ever be there and be able to be invited to have the time to, there's so many different things. Just never thought that we would ever be invited to something like that. But it's incredible what social media and also what opportunities you can be afforded, I guess, if you work hard at it, really.
I really want to talk about your career, but before we get there, there were some very interesting facts you shared before off camera on our call about you growing up in Toronto to a Chinese heritage family and, your career as a result of that. Could you talk to us about that? Yeah,
sure. So I'm Chinese by heritage. My parents are from Hong Kong, China, but they emigrated over to Canada back in, I think, the 70s. And so I was born and raised in Toronto. I was born to parents who very much wanted me to be a professional, and that meaning, there's a set list of professions that you're allowed to entertain, mainly because that they wanted security and stability. And I completely empathize why, especially as an immigrant here, I can see why you'd want some sort of foundation in your life and want to make sure your kids have that as well. So when I was growing up and deciding what path I should be taking. Whilst definitely I have a lot of interest in the arts. I used to be also a dancer as well, a ballet dancer that is. I unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, wanted to appease my parents and I ended up becoming a lawyer. And to be fair, they were they're very proud of having that as within me as their daughter, but equally now they're just they're also proud of the social media side. And it's actually incredible to watch their flexibility and adaptation from only seeing or only wanting a professional career for me to having so much respect for people who can earn a living and make a decent sort of, I guess, a career out of being, on this side of things, which is creative, entrepreneurial. It's also being online, and it's a whole different skill set. And so I think it's a lovely shift, I think, in their mentality too.
You told me before that you hear them like talk to their neighbors or friends and sharing your
well,
profile.
I don't. So Chinese parents very rarely will praise you in front of you. So they will never do it in front of me. But from what I hear from, my sibling is that they would praise me to their neighbors. And, they're, like most parents, proud of their kids. And so when I was first praised by my father that I know of, at least, he was very proud of me becoming a lawyer. But then, fast forward a few years, he was very proud of me that, did you know that she can make money off of, doing this, posting a campaign on a post online. And he was very proud of the social media aspect. And it's just fun to watch that, what it is that he's proud of now.
I think I could really resonate with this commentary. I come from, well, we are not Russian, but Eastern European Russian-speaking world. I'm the first generation immigrant. They didn't actually immigrate, but it's a very similar dynamic. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is under that. But if I was younger and I saw examples like that, maybe I would have... I did change my career in the end as well. But I think a lot of our listeners will be happy to know their parents will be proud if they are doing well. I think that's the main
thing. I also feel the same way with my kids too. It is very much about what it is that they want to do, because they will do better at it, and they will probably have more chance of success if they really resonate with whatever it is their interests that they're trying to take forward, rather than, I don't want to say forcing, but rather than pushing them in a direction that maybe they don't have much interest in.
Exactly. But you did have an interest in becoming a lawyer, and you're a great lawyer. So can you tell us about your career as a lawyer and as the only mother lawyer at some point in your firm?
So I started out very much like a lot of people when they start their legal career. I trained and qualified at law firms here in London, including at sort of, mid to large size city firms. I was a corporate lawyer for my entirety of my private practice career. And during my when I had my children at one particular law firm. After my first and second, to be fair, children, I found myself in a position whereby, as corporate lawyers, there are really not that many corporate mothers out there. And you'll find at least that the more senior you get, the less likely there are to be mothers in a corporate department. And that's mainly because of the unpredictable, uncontrollable time and resource that the job requires to take from you and your personal life. And so you tend to see that the mothers, if there are any, they either are younger or there's fewer and far between at senior level. So I found myself to be the most senior and the only mother at the time when I had my kids. So in terms of looking up to somebody, whoever that might be, a partner or somebody who is more senior to me, who was a mother and was able to juggle the unpredictability of our career and job, there was none. So I found myself, searching, where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? I cannot see it here. So I must change my environment to hopefully find somewhere, or if not someone else, maybe I can be that person that I look up to.
And could you tell me what age it was in your life?
I had my first kid at 32, and then I had my second kid very soon after that, so just under 34. Yeah.
And how did you find that other environment? How did you decide to switch to private firms or in-house?
Yeah, so I went in-house, and it was pretty. I never wanted to be a partner, and that's a lot of that was because that I would, like I mentioned, I wouldn't see anything that would attract me. I wouldn't see anything that I would want to be. I didn't see anybody that inspired me to become or to continue down that path during private practice, to become a partner in a firm. It just didn't seem like it was the career for me. So as a lawyer, if you want to stay as a lawyer, there's not that many different avenues. You either pretty much can stay where you are, or you can go in-house. Now, in-house is a very interesting prospect depending on where you are. And if it's for you, commercially, it can be a great place to get into because you're part of a business that you're helping the business achieve its goals. And therefore, you also have a little bit more control over your time. Now, it's not always like that, but certainly it will be more than having plentiful clients demanding or having demands on your time.
Yes, you mentioned that in the job in the agency, you had to work Sundays, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You were already a mother. You would be called. The deal has to be done and nobody cares.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting the way you categorized bodies.
Yes.
You said there is time in the career when you just need bodies to get a job done. Yeah. And then when you're more senior, it's more about you and your skill set. Yes. And I think a lot of women, they try to navigate this career path. And is this the right time to be a mom? Yeah. And you told me a little bit about what's, in your opinion, is that right gap in between. Could you tell everybody?
Yeah. I don't think there's ever a right time, right? It's like, it's so hard. Yeah. And everybody's so... everybody will make their own decisions based on their own lives. But for what I found, and for me, because that I'm from Canada, I had 4 years of my undergrads, of my first degree, and which meant that I was almost kind of like 4 years, give or take, older than most people, which meant that I was a junior at the time, like a junior mid-level lawyer, when I reached the time of 32 to the early 30s, we'll say. And that's the decision that I made to decide to have my first child. But it worked out really well for me. And I
felt when you told me, I was like, she cracked the formula. Yeah. She knows it. Everybody needs to. Yeah.
I think it worked well because I didn't have a pull to go back to work, meaning that I know that if I leave at this time to go on my maternity leave, and I took almost full year for both of my kids. And when I was there, I was only a few years after post-qualification, which meant that there was somebody else that was going to do my job. If it wasn't me doing this deal, somebody else will do the deal. And it wasn't like they needed specifically me as in Lisa, to do the deal. There was plenty of other associates that could take it on. And so I think as a result, you didn't feel like, well, you weren't as invested. This is not my client, meaning I'm not the relationship partner. I'm not the person that needs to keep this business kind of going. If it wasn't me, then there's nobody else. So you kind of felt like you could take a step back. You could fully embrace your maternity leave because you didn't feel that draw to go back and do those deals because it wasn't yours. It wasn't my ownership of that deal. So I think when I was more junior, it ended up being a more opportune time for me to take my maternity leaves and to be out of the business. Whereas if I'm older, or more senior, like I am now, it would be harder because if you do leave, you have to think about who's going to replace you. You have to think about, well, is my job going to, setting aside that legally it has to be there for you, but will it be the same? And will you feel as invested? Or, what kind of impact does it have on your relationship with other stakeholders that you have in your business? So I definitely think that for me, it worked out better when I was younger or more junior in my career to leave.
We actually did a little bit of research after talking to you, and we found quite a lot of data supporting this philosophy.
What is it?
So 31 to 34 is the best age to take maternity leave because it allows you to have gained a little bit of experience, but like you said, not too much. So there is a big pool of jobs available. But at the same time, it leaves you enough time to still have that progression in career later on. Because, once you're more senior, you're an expensive hire. People would think twice. So I feel like you really cracked the formula. So
I don't know if it was intentional, but it certainly worked out well on my side. So, so I'm quite happy with it.
So you progressed in the career, you're happily married, you have 2 children. Could you tell us a little bit more about importance of financial independence inside your family and the role money plays for you in general as a woman?
Yeah, well, I've always grown up with my mother in my ear, always saying, you should always be able to support yourself. And I think that that's also the reason why I became a professional of sort, meaning I have a job that I could always hopefully find a job with if something really happened and I was really stuck somewhere. So I've always kind of had that mentality going into it. But that said, in my family, me and my husband, it's one pot really. We don't really, it's obviously important for us, but it is certainly a financial burden that we both have to raise our kids, and all the different aspects that go along with that, especially supporting them through through all their different needs in a country without any sort of family help. And it would be nice, of course, to have a family here, but because we don't, we have to pay for all our support that we have here. And that's probably been the most challenging transition from pre-kids to having kids, is really, everything that goes into have to not just physically and mentally and, be there for them, but also be able to provide for them too.
And what model have you found for yourself that works and allows for that support network for your children?
Well, I mean, I have a full-time nanny, so I think that that's really helpful. And she's been with us for so long now. She's definitely much more of a proxy parent rather than rather than only a nanny or classified as one. So I definitely think my kids are very comfortable with her. And if I weren't there, if my husband wasn't there, we're both not there, she's absolutely the person that they go to and they see as somebody who's part of the family. And I think that's probably the best that we can have at this stage. When, my parents, they will come maybe once a year and they will stay for long periods of time. So obviously that's helpful, but that's not a reoccurring, that's not a day to day.
It's not every day.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a bit more challenging, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, it's actually just a daily struggle might not be the right words, but a daily challenge where we have to maintain, both between my husband and myself, we go through our calendars and say, what do you have once a week, usually on the weekend? What do you have this week? And then we'll go through, when are you home? When are you not home? He works as well, so he has his priorities and obligations that he has to put first on certain days. And then so somebody will need to obviously be home for the kids. So we go through that weekly. And then if for whatever reason we're both not home or we both need to go away, then, we go to the nanny. And if that doesn't work, then we can't go. That's the reality, right? It's just, it's having to juggle.
Do either of you work from home sometimes?
Yeah. We both have flexibility. So I can, as well, work from home sometimes. And he also has flexibility too. So between the two of us, we can hopefully find the solution, but it is not a perfect, it's not a systematic process. It is very much of a week by week, trying to figure it out week by week. And I don't think anybody has it, has every backup plan in the world for their schedule.
Just try to make the minimum coverage.
Exactly. Making it work, right? Yeah. And then hopefully sometimes you are able to do a little bit more for your kids.
You said you have a full-time nanny. Is it a sleeping nanny or just 9 to 5?
So she's not live-in, she's live-out. She's never been. We've never had a live-in. But I mean, I can totally see the appeal of having a live-in, don't get me wrong, but it's just not what we've had. And she is still full-time. She has evolved her role over the years because my kids are now full-time as well, but it certainly works for us very well. And I don't have any complaints on that side.
So you have nanny as a support, which is great. Mm-hmm. I mean, many mothers would find that as a great support network, but others have families, so it's a juggle, like you said. But then you need to still have a happy marriage, functioning marriage. Yeah. How do you find time for that?
So there's once a week that we've agreed with my nanny that she will stay late. And so that's once a week. It's not always perfect. It's not every week, but usually once a week we will then go and take that night and we'll go out for just a dinner, the two of us. I mean, it's probably, it works for us because that we both love to try food. Like we've always liked that as a couple, even pre-kids. And so that's really helped us because then at least that's an interest that we both want to, go in and explore. And then,
once a week, is it like a religious thing?
Yeah.
I find it very hard to stick to personally.
But more because that we already have childcare, so it's easy to stick to it because if we already have the childcare, why wouldn't you utilize it, right? And that's part of her working hours is to stay late one night. So it is pretty, but the thing is that obviously sometimes I might have something to do, or he might have something. So we don't always match, but like I would say twice out of the month we can
That's
find
amazing.
one. Yeah.
And when you're there, are there any rules like don't talk about work, don't talk about kids, or
although I mean
no phones?
No, I mean I wish I could say no phones, but no, there are no rules. My husband we're very good friends, I'd say. We've always been very good friends. We were friends before we got together. And as a result, I think we have a very open, communicative relationship, and our conversations very much are very free flowing. We've always been like that. And so we are definitely not short of things to talk about. But sometimes, we'll definitely, talk about kids, and sometimes not at all. And so, but to be fair, to my husband, at least, we try to have dinner together almost every day, like when we come home from work. So it's not always with the kids, because the kids will eat before us. Yeah. But, when they go to bed, we'll have dinner too.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Any other tips for successful relationship?
I think my best tip, which I don't know if it's a tip per se, but is what I said, is that becoming friends with my partner. We've been married 11 years, almost 12 years, and we've been together for, 15, 16. I think it is always just, being friends was probably the best foundation for our relationship. We're just very open in terms of what we talk about, how we talk about it. We know each other on that. And I think when all else goes, and, if you can rely on your partner for life, I guess, and it's really helpful, and, it will kind of guide you through.
Did your relationship evolve with children?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you do things and see things, and, you probably react to things so much differently than you did beforehand. But yeah, they absolutely, I mean, my patience, his patience, it's all been tested with kids. But, we end up becoming, I think, better versions of ourselves ultimately, because that we have another facet, another bow to the string to the bow, or whatever it is. So yeah, absolutely.
And what about your intimate life after children? Has that changed?
I would say, yeah, but that's more because of a time resource thing. I mean, you don't always have time to do the things that you always wanted to do in the past. Maybe when you take holidays, for example, we used to always take a holiday together once a year, adult holiday only, and we haven't...
Adult holiday only?
Yeah.
From what age of children?
So I did it pretty soon after my first kid. It was within the first year of having my first kid, I took my first adult only, I think it was 5 days or 6 days or whatever it was. Actually, we went to Bhutan. And so it's, I found that really, really incredible for lots of different things, not just intimacy, but just also reconnection and like exploration. And I love to travel. So it was a really fun time that. And then so every year we made it almost like an annual tradition where we would go and explore somewhere that we couldn't necessarily explore with children, because children travel is very different, right?
Yeah,
totally
it's
different.
A different game.
So we went to Bhutan, for example, the first one. Went to Peru for another year. We went to, this hotel I really want to try in the US for another year. So I think there's ways to do it, but like, obviously it's effort, right? It's effort, it's time, it's money, it's all those types of things in order to do those. But for me, it was prioritizing that so that we could get there, we could have those times together, and then we would maintain sort of like the core of our relationship, which is essentially being really good friends. And then
when I did my first adult-only vacation, I felt so guilty.
Did you?
Yeah, I found it very hard. Then it got easier this time. But the first time, I think I wasn't really present. Yeah. Although I was on vacation, I was like baby monitor. And I think it was totally wrong. I think it ruined my marriage. But how did you feel? And how did you know that you were ready to go? How was it for you? I guess I don't really get that guilt. And maybe I should, I don't know, but no, I think that's the healthy way.
But, well, I don't know. I don't know if it is, but it's, but I never really get that. Even now, like I very much see, like if I have to leave my kids for whatever reason, I see it as beneficial for me to leave. I mean, I'm not saying that I should be out of their lives 24/7, but I should certainly, like if it's for me to go out and get some self-care in, for example, like do an appointment somewhere, or if it's me to work or go to an event for work, all these things are beneficial, I think, for them to see a parent or a mother parent to go out and do things, whether it's working or taking care of themselves and demonstrating by example that actually all these things are important, including going on holidays without kids, because not that we don't love you, but they were too young to know that anyways at the time, but not that we don't love you, we really just need to have some time for ourselves, just like they need time for themselves too, when they're older. So I actually just think it's great role modeling for them.
I think so too, but it took me like 10 years to
Fair
get
enough.
there. So,
yes, yeah.
Which
makes sense, yeah.
You talk about time. So how do you, in general, approach your weekly planning, like finding time for everyone? What's your...
It's, I think it's really hard for anybody, not just a woman, but not just a working mom. But I find it very hard for you to say that you can do everything on balance every day or every week or whatever it is. I think every week, every day changes so much. So you have to be flexible and adapt to whatever it is that requires your needs today. So for example, if I have a really busy work week, then that busy work week will probably take precedent this week for my time, whether it's my social media, maybe I have a lot of events at night, which means I can't put the kids to bed, 3 nights out of the week, or maybe it's that I'm really busy during my day job and so I can't pick up or drop them off at school, or maybe it's the opposite. What if the kids really need me this week? So what if they're sick, for example, right? And, we all know that puts a spanner in the works at home. So maybe I need to change this around and change that around at work in order to cater to my kids. So I think having an expectation that not every week is going to meet a standard expectation is probably the best way to maintain.
Release that mental space.
Yeah.
I remember the minute I decided, okay, nothing is going to go to plan, you know? I was like,
yeah.
Okay.
But it's like, there's so many theories out there, but like, it's basically just letting the reality of your life, just letting it be, right? Like it is not going to get better if you try to control something that is not able to work for you today. But having the ability to adapt you and your life and your expectations to the whatever the scenario is, I think that's a much more, that will help get you through stressful periods with hopefully far less stress.
You said a few times today you're a fan of self-care. You look wonderful, obviously.
Thank you.
How do you find time for that? Is that like something that's scheduled in? What do you do to take care of yourself? Tell us about that.
I mean, it's much more about, I don't have a set schedule for any of these things. I know that maybe once a month I'll feel it. Like I'll feel quite a lot of tension. I get a lot of tension in my neck and my back. Those are all things that I've always worked on. So I can start to feel when muscles need to be released. So that, for example, it's very easy now. You can get it at home and you don't have to move. When I was working full time in an office, this is obviously pre-pandemic, and I was working really long hours, my early nights would end at like 7 p.m. By the time I get home, it's like 8 p.m., And so, and all your appointments, all your self-care appointments used to be outside of the house, right? So you had to make time. And that's when it was impossible because you really didn't know where to find the time to even get your nails done. Like, how do I go? But now that everything can be done at home, I very much utilize that. And it's more about efficiencies for me. Unfortunately, you can't delegate that stuff, right? So you really need to.
You have to be there. At the massage.
And surely you'd want to as well. So for me, it's all about like, there's always going to be a night that I am free at home. I mean, I don't really go out that much anyway. So I will find a night, I will do it at home and it will cut. And it's really an hour, right? And then because I'm at home, I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to come back from anything. So it's very simple, very easy to find the time. But it's very important, I think, to do these things because you want to feel good as well as all the other stuff.
What about movement, sports, exercise?
So I do go to, I have a gym that I go to, and I actually have found, and this is only recently, I used to do a lot of stuff at home as well because I couldn't find the time to go out. But more recently, in the last maybe 3-4 months, I started going to a gym. And at that gym, I can work there. So I can work all day there. So nice. What I'll do now is that I'll do a class in the middle of at my lunch hour, but then I'll just work around it. And that's been really helpful for me. So then I can find the time to do both and not have to sacrifice one thing or the other.
And what's your approach to food?
I don't I have a pretty good diet. Like I don't eat anything too processed. I mean, obviously I'm not also over restrictive on anything either. So I'm not on any diets per se. I don't cut anything out, but I have everything in moderation. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like in the best shape I've ever been, but equally I'm not in the worst shape I've ever been either. And now it's more about, to me, as I get older, it's just more about maintaining / improving my like longevity, my health, how I feel. We grow older, we have aches and pains and these things. And so I think it's more about making sure that, I'm healthy rather than how I look.
Definitely. I mean, I went through some big fluctuations in weights through pandemic and now, but I wake up every day feeling grateful that my body is able, and healthy, and it's a big thing.
Yeah. I think the focus is totally different than when I was younger and I would only look at how I look on the outside. Now I think it's much more about how I feel, and making sure that I feel energetic and and good about being able to move.
And how have you felt in your body during the 2 pregnancies? How was the journey for you?
The first one was it was all new, I think, and so I was still learning how to be pregnant, even like what to expect. And so I wasn't the worst pregnancy by any means. It was fine. They were both fine, but it's that one had a lot more physical changes, I guess, in the sense of like lots of water retention. I had the hugest feet, and they definitely look like elephant feet, and that was probably and they all went away after I gave birth, but that was probably the most change that I've encountered. The second one, I had my kids very close together. They were only 18 months apart. And so the second one, I got pregnant when I was 9 months postpartum, which meant that I had a really physical child at home. Like I was still very physical and having to move around. And so I felt that probably actually contributed positively onto my next pregnancy because I just didn't have time to lay down and sit. Yeah, exactly. So less water retention, for example.
This is my dream, to have children so close together.
Is it?
Would you recommend it?
No. It's so hard. Honestly, the 2 under 2 thing is so hard to me. And I found that I didn't really get to enjoy my second one as much because I was just surviving the whole time. And I just felt like, oh my God, how do I deal with having the needs of this kid being met alongside obviously another kid that is completely like, just stagnant, like just there, and it was very, very challenging, I'd say. It was only until maybe 2 or 3 years into the second kid's life that I felt like, okay, I get this a little bit more. Yeah.
Is that when you had the time to start your social media? Or you started?
Yeah, I would say I started about 5 years. Yeah, so maybe actually, I started probably about 5 years ago now. So yeah, in and around that time. Mm-hmm.
And is there a message you would like to send to working mothers?
I'd say working mothers have a very tough job in all aspects, in every aspect of their life, and which would mean to me, and I think the reason why it's hard is because of our own expectations on ourselves in a lot of things. Don't get me wrong, there are actual things that are hard and uncontrollable, but for everything else, I think it's because that we place a lot of expectations on ourselves to be something, whether it's to be the best at home, to be the best at work, and the best might not even mean that like, today I need to do this much productivity. And I think just learning that we cannot be 100% in all aspects of our life 100% of the time is the biggest learning that I've learned so far. And the biggest acceptance from my side is to get to that point where I don't feel like I need to be there all the time and operating at that level all the time in all aspects of my life. And I think it's that thing about being able to understand your life. Okay, well, this needs my attention today. I give that 100%, but this is going to have to take a back seat because you know what? I'm not going to be able to do that this week, today, whatever it is. And then next week, starting new, doing it again. And maybe you change that balance a little bit. And then eventually, I think learning that actually that sort of constant shift in priorities will help you become the best of what your version is in those different areas, but just not all at the same time.
This is such a wonderful answer. I think a lot of us will appreciate hearing it, because you can go about your day. Like, I'm recording this podcast, you know, all week.
Yeah.
My son is outsourced
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him, frankly, in the evening. I just want to go to sleep because I need to be in this space.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I could not be cooking dinners and playing and playing football or whatever.
Exactly.
This is not the time for this. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But when I just became a mom, it would have been very hard to do that.
Sure,
I would feel guilty.
But allowing you give yourself space, right, to do that. So you've given yourself, for example, this week to do this, and then next week you'll be back at home, and you know,
I'll be the best mom.
Exactly, and then at least so choosing that whatever your present is, the actual present, the presence of your present, that is what you give 100% to. And I think that's the biggest learning, because then you actually will feel more fulfilled. By next week, you're 100% there for your child. You're not being distracted by, oh, I need to go off and do this or that, or I need to record that. And then feeling like, actually, well, you know, they get 100% of me now. And not
a snappy,
and they're like, exactly,
yeah.
You'll be more patient. You'll be better as a kid. You know, I find that when I don't see my kids for a while, I'm better as a parent, right? Just
we miss them.
Yeah, we miss them, and you want to spend time with them, you know. And so I think, just that, you know, that's a balance, right? We all learn what works for us, but
and what would be your advice to your younger self?
That one's tough. My dad gives the best advice, and my dad always gave me really good career advice, you know, and always saying, you know, that sometimes it might not feel like it was working out, but, you know, I think it's, you know, we hear it all the time, very cliche, but it's not working out right now, but there is a wider picture for you, and it will, sometimes this door closes because something else will open, or a window, or whatever it is. But I think it is very much, you know, trusting that I always have ended up exactly where I need to be. And so as much as I tried to change that sometimes, and I've done that before, where I try to change the outcome, I shouldn't, you know, if it's meant for me, it really will come easily and smoothly. And I don't need to try to maneuver or manipulate the scenario to try to get to something else. It will happen.
Which horoscope sign are you?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm a Leo, so I have a bit of a control as well. I always, if I didn't get a booking in the restaurant, I'll be like calling, and I'll be making that booking happen.
Yes,
but nowadays I'm like, you don't need to be there. Everything should come in easy. Friends, people, if they're meant to be.
In particular, I think people you surround yourself with is really, you know, or other things that are important to you, like the right job, the right house. Like I really firmly believe that these are all, like, you cannot force these things. You cannot make them happen for you. If it's right for you, it will happen. I guarantee you it will happen. It might not happen linearly, but it will happen. You know, it will happen for you.
Definitely not linearly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all over. But it's trust the universe.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Yeah. And the question we ask to everyone, do you think you have it all figured out?
I mean, does anybody? Come on. Absolutely not.
One person said yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I would love to know who that person is and meet them and basically extract all their knowledge. But no, obviously not. No, not at all. Not even close. But I do feel more confident and self-aware of myself. Certainly, I turned 40 last year. And so I think that, to me, also, I don't know why, I just became more self-aware, more confident in my abilities, more and what I can do and my expectations for myself. So whilst I don't have it figured out, I do feel like I am not trying to chase things down that
you're capable of. Once life throws things at you, you can do it. Yeah,
I'll figure it out, you know.
You will.
Yeah.
And do you think time impacted that, or your experience, or a combination of all sorts of things?
Yeah, definitely both. I mean, definitely time, you know, like, and just knowing that actually, if you look back on all the things, on all the milestones in your life, you got there, and how did you achieve that? And they always say, you know, you can look back. Can you imagine, you know, 10 years ago, are you here where you thought you were going to be, or is this the place that you asked for as a goal way back when, and now here you are? It's exactly that, right? Like, I mean, you look back and you're like, actually, I did do that. I was able to navigate it. 2 under 2 was shit. It really was. But, you know, you were able to navigate it. You got through it, and almost potentially could be seen as succeeding with it. So it's, So you'll be able to do it again the next time.
we can do it. We just need to believe in ourselves.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you so much.
No, it's been a pleasure.
That's all. I thought your answers were so wise and so wonderful and so insightful. It was really great. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was great.